It was an extremely disappointing week in the House, with the majority party moving to strip Missourians of their voter-approved constitutional rights, and resorting to dishonesty to do it. Despite completely repealing Amendment 3, HJR 73's deceptive ballot language makes absolutely no mention of that fact. Instead, it falsely claims that it would guarantee access for medical emergencies, ectopic pregnancies, and miscarriages. But all of these things and more were already protected by Amendment 3. HJR 73 wouldn't only wipe out abortion rights in most circumstances, it would also eliminate constitutional protection for contraception and pave the way for lawmakers to reimpose medically unnecessary hurdles for Missourians seeking reproductive health care. One thing the ballot language does mention is a provision totally unrelated to the purpose of HJR 73 that treats medical care for transgender children as partisan ballot candy. Just something to sweeten the deal for voters who may be on the fence about the issue. And it's not a coincidence that one day before debating HJR 73 and its deceptive ballot language, that the House sent SB 22 to the governor, which severely weakens the authority of our courts to rewrite ballots, false or misleading ballot questions, drafted by the legislature or the Secretary of State. So the two key achievements of the House Republicans this week were to strip Missourians of their rights while empowering themselves to lie to voters without consequences or judicial accountability. I would like to take a moment to give a few of my colleagues who were silenced on the floor of the House before they were able to speak today a little bit of time. Who's first? Would you like to speak? You spoke, but we only have 5 minutes, so.
So I stand here today, and my title since January 8th has been Missouri State Representative. But before that, and still that, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm an educator, and I have spent so much time talking with Gen Z. And these young people are really disappointed in what's happening in the Missouri House of Representatives. We do not have their interests in mind. We are not improving our infrastructure in this state to make this an attractive place for young people. They are leaving in droves because they are not being heard. And imagine getting so politically and civically engaged that you go out and get signatures to put something on the ballot with the petition, as a young person. And right away, the work that you did to show that you learned something in school gets immediately turned over by people who you're supposed to care about. It is time that in this state, the people who are elected, who wear this title of Missouri House of Representatives, do the work that they were called here to do. There are public schools with actual people inside of them that need to be fully funded. My colleagues who are educators, the text group is lit up. Everyone is looking for a job. Everyone wants out. And it has nothing to do with the kids and everything to do with not being funded and not having what they need on a day-to-day basis. Not only are they leaving, but administrators are leaving. I want my colleagues to understand that every time we pass some type of legislation, when we look at academics, we look at schools, we're creating administrative positions that have nothing to do with kids and teachers. We've got to be very thorough and consider the whole picture, the whole situation, and not just for our kids who are here now, but the future. We're still reeling about what happened with the guns and making sure the age is lowered, not only from 21 to 19, but now 18, and that these people can carry on public transportation. I said on the floor, there are school districts that do not have transportation, and you have students who are riding buses, public buses, and we want them to be able to carry a gun. I'm sorry, I'm going to yield my time to all the other people, but I'm going to tell you, I am sorely disappointed in our ineffectiveness as a body to carry out the needs of the citizens of the state of Missouri.
Excuse my curls, they are real. So this is now the second time that this bill has come up for me and that I was PQ'd. The first time House Bill 26, the Heartbeat Bill 126 came up, I was PQ'd and I was the only black woman representing the city of St. Louis in this chamber in 2019. And luckily, now we have more women of color and black women adorning this body. And yet again, thank you to my colleague from St. Louis City from the north side, because that's what we do, is back each other up, showed deference and gave me the opportunity to speak within the 5 minutes that the GOP took from us, which was 15 minutes before, to yet again not only silence our voices, but silence the voices of Missourians across this state. This was not democracy. This was not what is representative of what we look for in this state, and Missourians know that. Yet again, ill-informed, mediocre, lackluster, supremacist white men dictated what we can and what we will not do with our bodies. This is what white supremacy looks like. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Yes. Oh, Jack.
I didn't get the opportunity to talk on the House floor today, but I just want to say briefly, last summer, I walked around neighborhoods, I collected signatures. I collected signatures for the petition for Amendment 3 out of my own home. I invited people into my living room to sign. I worked very, very hard to get that on the ballot, and we succeeded. And then we won. And we will do it again if we have to. So this is not going to stop us. I will collect more signatures. I will get out there and talk to voters and let them know how misleading this language is. And I know we all will continue to fight, and I just want to make sure that everyone knows that. Thank you.
I'm happy to take questions.
So a few minutes ago, Speaker Patterson defended this as a democratic process, saying that nothing was changed today, nothing was repealed. And I asked him, by combining this with what y'all done on Proposition A, how can the voters trust that what you're doing is honoring what they're saying? Why wouldn't Proposition A go to a vote? And he said people understand that a proposition can be changed by the legislature and that a constitutional amendment can be resubmitted. How do you react to him defending these actions as the democratic process?
Well, I will remind the press that just 6 short months ago, the Speaker also said that when Amendment 3 passes, it will be the law of the land. And he also said, I don't think an abortion ban works. I don't think it's working for Missouri. I will also remind folks that the Speaker of the House is solely in charge of referring legislation to committee. We are here because he put us here. We are here fighting this because the Speaker of the House prioritized overturning the will of the voters, not just on Proposition A, fighting where workers have been fighting for paid sick leave and a higher minimum wage, but on Amendment 3, where folks worked for months tirelessly gathering twice as many signatures as we needed to get this on the ballot, and then passed it in a majority of House districts across this state. This is not democracy in action. This is authoritarianism in action.
What do you think of the speaker's no vote?
I think that the speaker is a qualified medical professional who understands this issue probably better than most people in his caucus, and I am grateful that he stood up not only for the voters in his community who voted for this amendment to end the abortion ban. I only wish that he was able to convince the zealots and the folks who are afraid of the grassroots to be a little bit braver today.
The speaker also said that he was, like, his no vote was easy because he felt that obviously his district that he represents supported Amendment 3. What do you make of the Republicans whose districts did vote for Amendment 3 but voted no themselves, or voted yes themselves?
I think that they all just spit in the face of their voters. That's what I think. I think it's an incredible insult to go back to your district this afternoon and try to look your constituents in the eye after taking a vote that undid what they went to the ballot box to vote for just 5 months ago.
Do you think it'll help flip their seat in the next election?
I absolutely do, and I look forward to messaging on that in every single district where it happened.
The resolution now goes over to the Senate where, from what the speaker was saying, that Senator Mike Moon has already said it's not strict enough with allowing for the exceptions. I guess kind of thoughts on the fact that the idea of building a consensus that gets Democrats to sit down, that gets Mike Moon to sit down, is something that would, in theory, pass voter muster.
I don't even know what that would look like. I think one thing that I will say is that looking across the votes today, what is interesting to me is that several people took a walk. However, it's not just the folks who are too afraid to vote no that took a walk. It was folks who don't think that this measure goes far enough. It's folks who, it's folks who sat in front of a committee on Tuesday morning and said that women should be prosecuted for abortion. That's what we're dealing with. A lack of consensus on their side of the aisle spans from Speaker Patterson all the way down to people who think that 12-year-olds should be able to get married and carry their rapist child to pregnancy. Consensus seems impossible, but I wish them luck.
When the speaker was asked what he would have voted for, he said something that, he mentioned the heartbeat bill. I think that was when it was a 6 weeks. If that had been included in this, is there any Democrat who would have voted for that? If this had a 6 week allowance at the start of a pregnancy for an abortion?
No, and here, listen, I'm not going to speak for my entire caucus, but here's what I'll say for myself. Anyone with a uterus who has experienced pregnancy, or frankly, those of us who haven't experienced pregnancy but have a lot of folks in our circles who have, understand that so many women don't know they're pregnant for weeks, sometimes months. I had a friend in college who didn't know until month 7. There's an entire show dedicated to this. It's called I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant. So often, women don't know what's happening in our own bodies, and not for nothing, it's because of a lack of education early on, which the Missouri GOP is hell-bent on making sure we do not educate kids about sexual anything, reproduction, healthcare, any of it.
You talked about, you can go ahead.
Can you address what Representative Sparks said during debate this week, that Democrats are afraid that if voters get a second chance on Amendment 3, it will pass?
No, I think that what Representative Sparks is afraid of is going down in history as someone who is so vehemently against women that he wants them to be prosecuted for abortion. He's talking about women who have been sexually assaulted. He's talking about young girls who have been victimized by family members. Missourians on this side of the issue are not afraid of this going back on the ballot. We know we'll win again, and frankly, I think we'll win by more.
You spoke about campaigning on the will of the voters and democracy. What do you make of this disconnect in Missouri where voters do pass these progressive issues, but then elect Republicans that disagree with them? Like, how do you get that message to resonate and connect progressive issues to you guys?
Absolutely. I think it's, as someone who came from a background of marketing and communications, my first thought is to say Democrats in Missouri have a bit of a brand problem, and we do. I think that the way we have shown up this session, and we will continue to show up as Democrats in this state, by talking about what matters to voters, by protecting their will in the state house, by making sure their voices are heard on issues that actually affect them, like putting food on the table and accessing affordable health care and expanding mental health resources for our kids. There are so many big issues that Missourians are facing, and Missouri House Democrats are committed to continuously speaking to those challenges, trying to solve them legislatively. And we're going to keep doing that. So I think messaging is one piece of it, but I think it's improving our brand. And I think improving our brand means talking to more voters across the state about the values that we all share as Missourians.
If this goes onto the ballot and let's say voters decide that they don't agree with it, do you think that that will be the end of
No.
the story?
No, in fact, they told us that 2 days ago. They explicitly said, if this loses at the ballot, they're going to come back and try again. And it boggles the mind. It boggles the mind.
If it does end up winning at the ballot, are you going to continue to pursue changing it?
Absolutely. And the reason for that is how deceptive this ballot language is. They are not operating in good faith. They are not putting this ballot initiative in front of voters in good faith. They are using ballot candy. They are obfuscating the issue. They are trying to reinstate an abortion ban with language saying that they're expanding access to care.
Isn't that the same argument, though, that was used against Amendment 3 by the Republicans, was that voters were tricked into it?
Their argument is that voters didn't know what they were voting for. The ballot language was not the problem. What they believe is the problem is that there was sneaky, deceptive language inside of the amendment. The ballot language was straightforward. We did not lie to people who showed up to take a vote either way. The Amendment 3 folks wrote clear ballot language. It was challenged, it was challenged, it was challenged. We came up with ballot language that made sense. Frankly, I do think that one thing that is important to note is in the hearing, in the House hearing, before all of the protesters, all of the witnesses started a protest because they weren't allowed to speak, the bill handler openly acknowledged that this HJR violates the single issue clause. So by conflating reproductive health care and gender transition, that only serves to confuse voters. That only serves to confuse voters. And it's forcing voters who care about protecting their access to abortion, but may not yet be educated enough on the issue of gender transition surgeries or the fact that we've already banned it in this state. We've already banned gender-affirming care for minors in this state. It is already in statute. We've already done it. It's just like in November when they were successful at prohibiting ranked choice voting across the state by starting that ballot language with making sure that only U.S. citizens vote, as if that isn't already law, is disingenuous, and they only do it because they know they're going to lose.
On last, and I know you love when I ask you about the Senate, but last year there was a resolution that would have made it harder to amend the Constitution, and ultimately Senate Democrats, they find compromise that's kind of their mechanism through filibuster, but their hard line was this ballot candy where they did not compromise, and eventually they were successful in blocking that legislation because there was a refusal to omit this ballot candy. Are you anticipating a similar situation, not even like on the policy itself, but the fact that of the ballot language, and do you think that that will be a hard line? And again,
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't speak to Senate Democrats' strategy around this, but I do hope that it is an enormous point of contention on that side of the building because I'm certain that Senate Dems will not, allow, or at least will do their best to not allow this deceptive language out of the Senate. But it's going to be a fight. We are in the super minority, and as much as the Senate and even House Dems want to do our best to compromise and do good work for our constituents and make sure good government happens in this building, too often we just lose.
on Senate Bill 22, which passed the legislature on Monday, allows for, it basically gives the power to write summaries to the Secretary of State's office as opposed to judicial. I mean, are you expecting judicial challenges on this? Do you think it's going to stand up to most likely lawsuits?
Oh, I absolutely hope so, because between that part of the bill and the part that gives incredible power to the Attorney General, I think that we are absolutely looking at a challenge for SB 22, and I'll be surprised if it stands.
Is that it? All right. Have a good
Oh,
weekend,
can
y'all.
can I ask anyone in the education world a question, or if you all want to? This week, the governor nominated a couple of replacements to the State Board of Education, the president and the vice president. I wanted to see what you all think of replacing the top two with the folks that he chose.
I don't know. I saw the list, but I don't know.
So it would, but I'll tell you, like, the president, Charlie Shields from St. Joseph, and then Vice President Carol Hallquist from Kansas City. So I don't know if that's helpful in deciding if anyone wants to chat.
I don't know.
Can we,
Sorry.
we'll follow up with you,
Yeah, we
okay?
can follow up with you.
Okay.
But-
Thank you.
All right.